Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. I am Alex Dingman.
I'm Jeff Doss. This is Inside Scoop. Welcome, insiders. And as you see, we got two amazing, legendary. Yeah, I mean, legendary is the term, but I mean, even more than that, amazing competitors, icons. I mean, just people that have brought so much to the sport of martial arts. Master Tony Young and my friend Kid Carmichael. Awesome, guys. Thank you all for joining us.
That's Kid Carmichael, 90, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96. That's who that is. The funniest dang thing when I saw that.
Oh, man. Oh, good stuff. So as we get going, guys, as you know, we are sponsored by Virtual Fight Tour, and they just announced they have, lots of fun stuff going on. They've been putting out everything.
It's going to be a big deal.
Oh, here we go. So
Sounds
put
like
up or
there's
shut
going to be
up.
a lot of teams, man.
Yeah, I'm hearing from everyone that, because remember you talked the other week to a couple guys from TDE, and they sound like they were going to do it. And same thing with John Corto, right?
Yeah. So it really, you start talking about like the what if, what if every single team was at an event? And there are a few events throughout the year where you might get most of them. And there was a few years where the U.S. Open had most of them. Most recently, the Battle has had most all the teams there. And we're going to get into the Battle pretty heavily. Yeah. But, when you're talking about you have almost all the teams, but then maybe JPM wasn't there. And you're like, man. Well, now they don't even have a team, so it doesn't matter. All right. Right. And then you go, well, all the teams were there, but straight up wasn't there. You're like, what if? There's no more what if. Now there's no reason for them not to be there, unless somebody's, getting married, having a baby, or dying. You're going to be at this event.
Right.
Because this is
the
biggest pot one could have.
Yep.
It's Jesse's doing a phenomenal thing.
Yeah, it's great. And then the same thing, if you compete on Friday, you get your division taken care of the next day, already paid for. And King of New York is doing 2 rounds this year. So every division for black belts is going to be 2 rounds. So
that's great.
You're getting your money's worth, man. So it's going to be great. Mr. Young,
fighting at one of Jesse's tournaments is like going to a buffet in Vegas. I tell you what.
That's true. Master Young, what do you think about that? Just about the put up or shut up event?
No, I think it's a fantastic event. It gives everybody a chance to compete. If they say they're good, it gives them a chance to compete and prove they're the best.
Right. Now, was there any times events like this when you were coming up, or maybe just one tournament that you thought of where just all the best teams were at?
There wasn't really. Most of the tournaments that we went to were basically set fights or set team fights.
Okay.
So I really enjoyed that because we were going against the best people, the best teams, and that was with the Budweiser, Transworld Oil, and the Atlantic teams. So, like I said, we're going against the best people, the best teams. So I enjoyed doing that. There wasn't open events. All the fights were set, set fights or set team fights.
Awesome. Good stuff. I think it's just going to be great. So again, guys, September 22nd, 23rd, or 23rd, 20. I see I'm always messing it up. Yeah, here we go. 23rd, 24th. All right, September 23rd, 24th.
Hey, real quick, Jeff, before we leave that, because Mr. Young, I like what you said about that. There wasn't a lot because it was almost like a set fight. I think it would be pretty cool if we could have the bracket set for that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, 2 weeks ahead of time, 3 weeks ahead of time. Mm-hmm. Man, imagine the buzz for that.
That would be great.
Everybody starts to go through, what do you think the matchups would be? What do you think the matchups would be if that's this team won? Wow, wouldn't that be cool?
That would
Jesse, let's see if we can do that.
Yes, I agree. Get it done. Make it happen. I like that. Set fights to me were always my favorites, especially when being a part of Team Elite, we had some really cool set fights. And one of the coolest ones was us versus the Canadian national team. And that was in '99 at Mike Bernardo's tournament. Just insane, just so much fun. And then I think we did one against JPM at Kevin Thompson's tournament as well. So lots of cool stuff. But Man, we got a big week, as you know. It's battle week, so I know I'm packed up and ready to go tomorrow morning, driving down there. So I'm excited and ready to go. Master Young, I know he will be there.
Yeah, I'm
He's
already
always
here,
there.
ready to go.
That's right. He's pumped up. Oh, there we go. As someone, oh, yep.
He's coming back. Don't worry about it.
All right, but
I have confidence.
That's why we have, Tony and Carmichael on tonight to talk about just, not just the legacy of it is, but the experience of the battle, and why the battle is held in such high regard still, and especially to people in my generation, your generation, Mr. Young's generation, you, Alex, why it's such a big deal, and so we want to talk about that, Carmichael, you hadn't really said anything yet, so let's hear what that means to you, growing up.
Man, I saw the fight. The battle was at Jim Abernathy Sports, ESPN. I think it's 85, 86. Tony Young fighting Steve Nasty Anderson on ESPN, and I was hooked. Right, I saw Ernie Jr. and just starting martial arts at that time. That was the pinnacle. That was where you wanted to be showcased. And by the time I came in as a competitor in the 90s, it was where you got discovered. That was where one would find the next talent, if that be Chuck Norris or Pat Johnson, obviously during that time. And, coming from a farm's background, and being in the Georgia Dome or moving over to the World Congress Center, right, it became this place where the first major tournament out is actually what you train for right after the Diamonds. You prepared for 4 to 5 months to get that first performance and/or, hopefully you got recognized because you knew at that tournament that the biggest producers could just be sitting in the stands, having the Centurion Award. You always knew that you'd have, nominees that would be presented at the Battle of Atlanta, and everybody who was part of that alumni would always be there ringside watching. So for me as a forms competitor, first and foremost was, watching the amazing fighters from the 80s and creating a platform on ESPN, and then moving on to be able to highlight that with amazing stunt coordinators and choreographers that became who they are now. Stephen Ho, Philip Wong, Ernie Jr. was there, Larry Lamb, Ho Sung Pak, right? That's just to name a few. But that's really where the precedent of where most of us as juniors, started our careers from.
Right. Definitely. And Tony, what do you think as far as just being in that area? Like, what's the vibe right now in Atlanta right now?
Well, the vibe is crazy. It's it's alive, knowing that the best people are going to be here. I'm going to take you way back.
Yes, sir.
When I was 15 years old in the early 70s, had only gone to maybe a couple of tournaments, maybe 3 tournaments before the battle. But I had some of my senior students, older students, they asked my parents if I could go to the battle. I had no idea what the battle was, so my parents said I could go. So I went to the battle. At age 15, you could fight in the adult division. And I was only a green belt. So when I got there, it was people everywhere. I said, wow, this is incredible. Because I only been to a few tournaments before, smaller tournaments, mainly going to Greenville, South Carolina, mostly to Sam Chapman's events.
Right.
But I bet there was probably over 100 green belts in that division, and all adults, So, fortunately, I was blessed to win first place, basically just taking it one fight at a time. I had, before going to the battle, I had no idea, how big it was or what it was. I just know some of my classmates wanted me to go and, and just try it out. But seeing all the people there, just mind blowing. And then actually, winning first place too was even more, more phenomenal, or actually most memorable for me, for my biggest win. And of course, after that, I didn't compete as an advanced belt or brown belt. I went straight to black belt, okay, because I was doing pretty good, throughout my training and so forth. Didn't win the battle the first time, but had a great time, and I actually got a chance to meet all the top competitors. You know, Keith Vitale was there, Bobby Tucker, Mike Jennifer, all those guys that we know, Robert Harris, John Longstreet, all those phenomenal fighters. So, and basically with me, I like competition. You know, I like being tested. So I just wanted to one day be able to fight in the finals, because at that time, the battle was at Georgia Tech Coliseum.
Right.
And it was thousands of people, thousands of spectators, you know, watching the event. And, you know, top quality production too, cameras, lighting, everything. So I always wanted to be on stage and go against the best people. And I think after my first year, I got a chance to do that. For the battle, they had, you know, seeded fighters. The best fighters already seeded. So when you competed in the daytime division, you didn't fight the best fighters. They were seeded in the finals. So it gave me a chance to, after winning first, gave me a chance to go to the seeded fighters. And I think, when I can remember right now, I made it to the final four, beat a couple top ranked fighters, made it to the final four, and lost to John Longstreet in the semifinals.
Do you know what year this was?
I don't know what year it was, but close fight. And I was just coming up, close fight. But I was glad just to be in the ring, you know, just to be spotlighted. But close fight, a little disappointed. You know, of course, I got a couple points, wasn't called, and so forth. But you know, that's it. You just, you know, you take your losses and you go back and train and you move forward. But as the years went, I fought more and, you know, won a lot of first place at the battle and fought in the finals a lot. Ended up fighting Steve Nancy Anderson a couple of times, which was televised on ESPN. I actually fought not Shaw, but Hakeem Austin in the finals. But I've been at the battle or fought in the battle. I retired in '97. Fought in the battle every year since age 15. For maybe missed 2 battles. Okay, just for the battle is the event. The best people are always there, you know. So, and I like going against the best people. It's the only way to test yourself. But the battle is, you know, been to a lot of events, you know, the U.S. Open and the Bluegrass, but the battle is the event to win. And especially if you're in the South too, is to prove that you're the best in the South and also the best in the nation, the best in the world. So if you don't win any other event, if you're in the South, you want to win the Battle of Atlanta.
Exactly.
And for the battle too, it gave a lot of people that were good but not really noticed, give them a chance to go against the best people and prove themselves. And some people have won, you know, first place in the battle, like Carl Soriano and Joey Imperial and a lot of other people, you know, that you would never know of. Didn't quite do good in the Grand Championship finals, but won first place and did great against a lot of seeded fighters or a lot of best fighters. But in the South, the battle is the event to win if you don't do anything else, right?
Yeah. Growing up, that was always it, you know, the battle. And what's funny is that people, even up here in Virginia, that are not in sport karate, when I went to Liberty University to get the contract for my tournament, the Grand Slam Open, the guy that was there, have you ever been to the Battle of Atlanta? I was like, wait, what? How do you know about that? Oh, my cousin went down there and got first place, or maybe he said second place in the beginner division back in the early 90s or something like that. I was like, oh, okay, awesome. And so even people that don't know, they know the Battle of Atlanta, you know. So even if they're not in the sport, it's really cool.
And Jeff too, a lot of people that don't even train martial arts, they asked me about the battle. They not even been to the battle. They knew about the Battle of Atlanta. That's one of the things that Mr. Corley has done with the battle. He's done a great job advertising the battle. But I've come across people, even today, came across somebody, you know, and I told them about the Battle of Atlanta this weekend and say, man, you're going to the Battle of Atlanta? You know, I heard about that. That's an awesome event.
Yeah.
I said, of course I'm going to the Battle of Atlanta. But a lot of people that I've talked to in the street or anywhere, they've never been to a martial arts school, never been to the battle, but they know about it. So Mr. Joe Corley's done a fantastic job with advertising and you know, pushing the sport, and you know, he's done a great job. I think more than anybody else I can think of. You know, it's been on ESPN and some of the other major sports, you know, networks, and it's just phenomenal. You know, it's just incredible.
And they're still doing it now. You know, they are as we were talked about last week with, PKA coming back, so I'm really hearing a lot of great things about what that's going to provide. So looking forward to talking more about that in the future too. So, as far as
you said
what
so
was the
many
difference?
things. There was
Yeah,
so
no,
much to unpack in that.
I know it's so much.
But
I know.
I want to touch on a couple of things that you said that were pretty notable, which was that, as we're sitting here like this, if you look at like the four of us, I started thinking, I was like, wow, we got really like 4 different times as to when each of us started going to the battle. Now I started, martial arts in 92 competition, right? But I didn't go to the battle until 2000. That was my first battle, right?
Yeah.
So obviously, much later than everybody else. However, I remember watching that fight that you just spoke about,
right,
when you fought Steve Nasty Anderson, and as I got the videotape from, you mentioned his name as well, John Longstreet, right? And there was like a overnight karate camp we had, and a bunch of other kids were running around do this, and there was just this stack of VHS tapes, and I said, what are these? He said, oh, these are all karate tournaments. And me and like 2 other kids just sat down there and just popped in tape after tape after tape, and I watched that fight. I watched the fight of you guys too. And real quick, my question about that fight that you had with John Longstreet, because I watched the fight and I remember it. And when you said like, yeah, there was a couple calls that didn't go my way, I think you're right. Do you feel like, because he was like a middleweight or almost like a light heavyweight at the time, do you feel like you were a better matchup for a fighter like him than maybe someone like Robert Harris?
No, not really. I think Robert Harris was a great competitor to go against. They were about the same size, close to the same weight. With me, I was, a super lightweight, but just kind of getting started, going good, and I just think I need to pay more dues as far as getting better calls and to get a better deal as far as competing. A lot of times you get new timers coming in, and the better people, they expect the better people to win, and they do win a lot. Okay, but I think sometimes the guys that just coming up don't get the calls or get the justice that they should get. They make it a little harder for the new guys to beat the guys that's doing the best, if you follow me.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's good that I got that info from you, because I would have thought, oh no, you're a better matchup for him, but I obviously didn't fight at that time in the early 80s like that. So that's good that you let me know that.
One thing that I want to bring up and for everybody, one thing that was big in the finals, especially in the 80s and not as much in the 90s, but later on in the later 90s, was the ring, right? And so in the finals, he always had a ring. So because sometimes he would have kickboxing matches as well and such. What was that like? So I want to go the opposite, Carmichael, because competing in a ring for forms is completely different. I've done it several times. I know you have. You've won in a ring before several times. So explain what that's like to those, because some people haven't never done that.
It's interesting because you guys are talking about brand and production, and that's one thing Joe Corley did an amazing job with. I remember there's an image of Charlie Lee and Stephen Ho side by side on Sport Karate News, and those images is actually shot from underneath the ring at the Battle of Atlanta. And that image still sticks with me. So when I had the opportunity in 90, actually was my first grand at the battle. It was my first year out, and I was fortunate enough to win the grands in 90. That floor, and that boxing ring was great to jump off of. I think it depends on what type of athlete you are. For me, being able to spring as an acro kicker or a jump kicker definitely helped me out as a competitor. I did like the ring, obviously, simply because of the way that my form was personally formatted, right? Because I was able to go diagonally. So you would have to be really cognizant on how that choreography or how you choreographed your form as well, because one thing I do recall, sometimes they put all the judges in the front, or they put them in separate, 2 in the front and then 1 on each side. as well, just to get the visual of all four sides of the ring. I liked it. I do recall as Philip Wong doing his butterfly. He did like 2 butterfly kicks, and his feet got caught up on the ropes, and he twisted out of it, and he ended up jumping off the second or third turnbuckle and throwing a backflip. And it was amazing. I mean, luckily he was doing drunken style, so basically he landed and did a backdrop, and he won.
Wild.
And it was great because Ninja Turtles were there in 1990, and like I said, that tournament is so nostalgic in so many levels, simply because not just the notoriety of who was there, celebrities of martial arts, or even athletes from Atlanta, but it was also, there was amazing history and content produced by the fighters, kickboxers, as well as forms competitors, obviously for the last couple generations. Most importantly, like the 80s and the 90s, because that really became the platform for a lot of other tournaments to model from.
Yeah, I believe so. I think most tournaments really modeled after the battle. They saw what it was doing in the South and how it's drawing everybody in, and, for me, it was the battle. The battle was the event, to go to. And then I heard about Bluegrass and the Diamonds, you know what I mean? And then eventually the US Open. But to me, like, the battle was the main one of the South, one of the best things that I was sharing with some people today. I was talking to Marty Knight one time at the battle, and it was one of the years, it was 2011, where it wasn't a big crowd. And he was just like, what's going on, man? Like, people don't, when I grew up, it was, if you win first place at the Battle of Atlanta, you died and go to karate heaven. You know what I mean? Like, that's
right.
what it was,
That's right.
And it's right. And I mean, that's the way I felt. I mean, I remember my first battle in 1990, and then finally winning in 95, and just being like, whoa, I did this. Like, that was just a huge accomplishment. One of the things, so it was at Georgia Tech from the 80s, right? Most of the 80s. And then 90 was the last year. I think it was at Georgia Tech, because that was my first year, and I remember that. Mm-hmm. And then that was really when it kept growing, though, right? Because it kept going to bigger venues. Yeah. It went to the Omni, which, if people don't know, the Omni was like the Madison Square Garden of the South. The Omni was huge. And so it was there 91 and 92, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Then it went to the Georgia Dome.
Yeah, and then that was insane.
That was crazy. All those rings. That was wild.
Yeah, it was wild, man. Just imagine that, guys, like a karate tournament where football is being played, right? Mm-hmm. Like just imagine that, right? And
Jeff, too, it was so, I mean, you know how big the dome is, and it was packed. It was crowded, it didn't have like, this small section crowded. The whole place was crowded and packed with competitors and spectators. So it was amazing to see that many people in one big place. It was just crazy. It was wild.
Just wild, man. And I know for me, there's a lot of crazy historical things that have happened in those, events, but that was 93, 94, 95. And then 96, it went back to the Omni Hotel, I believe. But just, that was the first time that my mom set up her, she had a vendor, she was a vendor and set up selling gifts, toys, and jewelry. They were all martial arts themes. And I just remember, at that time, people were paying $2,000 for a booth, because everyone was just there. It was just
right, exactly.
fun,
everybody wanted to be there. Everybody wanted to go.
Everybody wanted to be there. And, what was cool, that was one of the first events where they didn't let any spectators on the floor. You had to stay, at least for me that I had been to, you had to stay in that seating area, which you had a great, great view. It was amazing. And again, people now are like, wait, you competed on the concrete? Yes, every tournament. Every tournament. And I mean, I remember injuries happening and stuff. Mostly, actually, the injuries I'd say happened more in the forms.
I tore my PCL doing that. Split my kneecap in half.
Wow.
Concrete, whatever. I did.
Yeah. but I mean, I remember my first that 95 year, and I was I was the number 1 seed, and this was the first year they split it boys and girls, and we still had 40 people in that division, and like 11, 12-year-olds, black belt, split it, and still had 40 people. It was just crazy, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
And, you know, just awesome legacy that they went from the 70s to the 80s to the 90s. What, you know, we'd said, you know, that Corley was an amazing, you know, promoter, but what about him? And even in that area, the whole area got around it. You know what I mean?
They did.
Why do you think that is? Not just because it's the biggest tournament, but there's got to be some, you know, it's teamwork, you know?
It is. I think he wanted the sport to be big and to be large as possible. So, you know, he went out and got, you know, local, not just the national television, but the local television stations. He got all the local papers to do articles. He went way out of his way to do everything possible for the battle to get publicity. And even after the battle, you could open the paper Sunday morning, you could see big pictures, maybe even a whole page sometime, who won the battle, or was it a kickboxing match or a point fighting match, who won the battle, and you know how it was. But he just spent more time not just drawing people in, but to make sure people got, you know, publicity for winning the battle, you know. So he did an outstanding job doing that. Just did a great job.
It was great. Andrew says a great thing. You know, he's from Canada. So when he started karate in 88, his dream was go to the Battle of Atlanta. And he got his wish when he first went in 92. And so that's a cool thing. It's just like your dream is, you know, someone in another country is to come, you know, down to Atlanta for a big event. So
also it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool too. You know, it's okay to see your name in a local paper, but a major, you know, national paper, well, Atlanta is not national, but it's, you know, it's pretty big.
Yeah.
See your name in that paper, you know, it's like mind blowing. You know, it's something that, you know, you never dreamed of. You know, just like fighting in the finals is something you never dream of, to have that many people watching you, or just to make it that far. You know, it's just, but the battle has been just, like I say, mind blowing.
Yeah. So, Carmichael, let's talk about some of your big moments at the battle. I mean, we all know one big one, but.
Sure. I mean, I remember as Master Young is saying, I used to go, Joe Corley used to fly me out to do promotions for Coca-Cola. So that's as well. He was a very, I mean, not just promoter, but like networking. There you go. So networking, you know, with other enterprises and companies in the Atlanta area. So, you know, I know he always kept relationships really solid, and always, you know, not only promoted the brand, but really, really good with promoting the athletes and our artists, as well as continuing, you know, the lineage of PKA. But for me personally, as you all know, you know, 1994 is when I got founded for WMAC Masters, which is also the first time the 720 was thrown. So it was a really monumental time personally for myself, but it was also a shift, right? Where we're shifting between Ninja Turtles and Mortal Kombat, you know, costumes and animation and comic book, to real live martial arts superheroes that were going to take the airwaves, UPN, Fox, you know, syndicating networks and broadcast TVs to showcase, quote unquote, whoever was the best in martial arts at that time. So, you know, that's where, you know, like I said, Pat Johnson was very instrumental in finding us as artists, and being able to create an industry, you know, to carry on his legacy of being a stunt man and or stunt actor in Enter the Dragon. You know, so, you know, that's where the battle relationships continue to evolve. And I believe even to this current date, you know, with Cobra Kai and Hirokoda, right? You know, there's still, and obviously the film industry in Atlanta, there's still opportunities that film and stunts and quote unquote Hotlanta, Hollywood still has a place for martial arts, and always will have a place. So the battle is where it's at, to be recognized and noticed, and you know, continue to be there to network.
You know, you mentioned something that I kind of want you to lean in on when you said, you know, 94 was the iconic year, you know, and that's when you chose to do the 720. Then I started thinking back years later. And I am not into any of the X Games stuff and like the skateboarding. And I don't know anything about that, right? However, I do remember flicking through one time just on TV, and then the ESPN was like replaying this iconic moment when Tony Hawk did like, I don't know if it was 900 or a 1080 or something like that. And it was like packed. Everybody knew he was going to do this move. Everybody was talking about it. Can somebody actually do the move? Is it physically possible? And then he just sure enough went and did the move. And it was like, oh my gosh, where were you moment for this X Games type of thing. Did you feel like, listen, nobody's done this. Everybody's kind of talked about it. Can it be done? Would it be done? Would anybody ever do? What was your thought process of intentionally choosing the battle for that?
I was leaked.
Were you nervous too?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, I was leaked that the production company of WMAC Masters would be their scouting talent. And
you already knew they were going to be there?
Yeah, correct. Yes, I did. Well, I mean, it's being, my godfather, Stephen Ho. So that always helps, right? So, and obviously that aligns with Ernie Jr. and that whole, stunt game. But all I knew, I need to get on stage and draw a good number, and it wasn't in a ring. Obviously, it was on a pretty big center stage. Lighting was, pretty tough with regard, because it was in the Georgia Dome or the Congress Center, right? And I remember watching competitors before me have lights getting cut out. So I was, obviously hitting the stage, and it's a long stage as well, just to, to intro yourself. But I was just hoping that he didn't cut the lights off. I knew I was going to throw it. However, my feet planted and I made it around, and that was, I just had to try it, right? What else would have happened? Right. That was one of those things, you train for it. Like they say in WMC Masters, you train for this your entire life. And that's what I did,
That was awesome, man. Yeah, it was I remember those 2 or 3 years. Actually, it was mostly 94, 95, where they were trying to do too much with the lighting, and they were like spotlight people and carry it and this and that, and people would get off of the spotlight and that. And so it was kind of wild. You didn't know what you were going to get. So they were trying a little bit too much on that one. But
I do remember, Mr. Young, as a fighter, do you remember that moment?
I do, without a doubt. I remember very, very well. It's amazing night. It was great competition. I remember the lighting and everything. It was just, the whole show was just amazing. And then they were trying different things. Actually, to make it better, you have to try new things. That's what they were doing. But Carmichael, I saw his performance. He was like off the chain. I mean, it was great. It was phenomenal.
I remember even outside of the 720, I think there was one. I think it was 93, right, when we had the brawl.
Yeah,
yeah.
That was coming up. Yeah.
What was that? DKT and Metro.
And Metro DKT. Yep. That
Chris
was a huge
McBride. Was it Chris McBride, the Brady's, and who else was there? Mafia and Hakeem Shaw and. Oof.
I'm trying to think who the third one was.
You named most of them.
For 93, I don't know if it was Ibby. Ibby might have been there, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, he was there.
Yeah.
Shaw, I think the fight went down with Shaw and Chris McBride.
Right. Makes sense.
It got real.
It got really. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I remember I had video of that and just be like, oh man, this has happened. And the video's terrible because we're like trying to move all over the place, trying to find it. And
hey guys, also too, later, like in the 70s and 80s, where we're in Chicago or different places, like you would have good fights at the tournament, but sometimes those guys would go outside and fight.
Yes.
So it was crazy.
Yes.
Even have the whole tournament be fighting, schools fighting against each other. It's not that way now, but in the 70s and maybe early 80s, it was kind of crazy, So you had to be on your toes and get out of the way or move back when you need to.
Yeah, I shared that this year when I went to AKAs. It was just different. It's like it's the first time I've been to Chicago and or area for a tournament. Didn't feel like I needed to watch my back. It was weird.
Right. It's changed a lot.
It has changed a lot. But all right. So as far as we're going into the 90s, there's a lot of different things. We have the set fights with the, again, PKC, PKA, the Atomics Grand Slam that they did, that year in 95, which has made that event even bigger because Saturday we competed, then we go to the Omni on Sunday and compete. It was just wild. And then, finals and everything there as well. So, always at the cutting edge of trying to make sport karate bigger. And that's what I thought the Atomics Grand Slam, was trying to bring in everybody to come in and compete, to maybe go in to do something different,
And the money was good too.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't get none of that, but it was cool
what was
for
the
us.
money like?
I'm sorry. Wow. I don't remember. Maybe first place guessing. Maybe first place of 500 or 1,000. Maybe grand 2,500. I don't remember, but it was good money though.
Yeah, and that wasn't normal.
No, it wasn't.
No.
It wasn't.
So I mean, that was a big deal, and that happened the day at all the other events at the other 4 events. Well, 3 events on the NASCAR circuit.
Right.
Diamonds and Bluegrass. So Diamonds was the only one that did it on Friday. Everybody else did it on Sunday after. So another big thing that, Joe Corley was a part of, for me, one of the there's so many moments that I remember, for me personally, it was Ty and Jimmy Pham in the runoff and making it to stage finally for the battle. And that was a big deal for me. But that night at the 99 battle was a fight that I'll never forget. And that was Dottie White versus Nikki Carlson. And we have talked about that one.
Nikki
Another video that I saw
crazy,
that I felt like I was there, but I wasn't.
Nikki is completely awesome.
Yes.
Believe it or not, Nikki's from, of course, South Carolina. She's from Belton, South Carolina. But she trained with Marty Knight. And I was actually at Marty Knight's school the first day she started as a white belt.
Wow.
So to see her develop and to be as good as she was exceptional. It was just crazy. Just, see a white belt come in, kind of shy and just going through classes and so forth. And then do as good as she did as a black belt. I mean, she had crazy kicks. I mean, she could kick like a mule, and when she fought guys too, and when training,
I was gonna say,
you better be on your toes.
And a lot of the tournaments in the South too, there wasn't female divisions either, and so she competed a lot of guys as well.
She had no idea. I mean, she had no problem with going against guys. No problem at all.
And I think a lot of her first grands were when she was like 15 or 16.
When she was pretty young, that's true. Around that age.
Wait, I want you to say something again. You just kind of said it and then skip past it. You were there for her first karate class?
First class. I was there. I used to work out a lot at Marty's as far as sparring, very good friends. As you can see too, at one of the Battle Atlanta tapes when I fought Steve, Marty Knight was in my corner. But yeah, I was there when she first started. I was there sparring, and I remember when she came in the door. I remember her first class.
Who the heck can say that about just about any other great? I can't say that for like any other like great ever. Who can say that? How is that possible? Just like lucked into that. Like, oh yeah,
Awesome.
there's just some woman taking her first karate class today. Just some young girl. Like, oh yeah, maybe she'll be good one day. No, she might be one of the best ever.
Definitely, right? Without a doubt.
Without a
doubt. And I had no idea she would be that good. Just seeing her come in and wow. As the years went by, I mean, she's a hard worker too, and also a great fighter. Like you said, she's one of the best. One of the best has been around. I wish she was still competing. But she's great person too.
I think she still could.
Yeah, she's nice. She's nice outside the ring, but in the ring, she's she takes care of business.
Yeah, and in that night, that surprised me was just how she wasn't going to put up with Dottie's. The way Dottie fights. She and really
say what happened, Jeff. Say what happened.
So they're fighting, and Dottie, especially as for for her, in her mind, the way for her to win was to bully
Rough
up,
it up.
rough her up, and hit a little bit after the break. Well, Nikki just kind of had enough of it, pushed her back, punched her. Then it kind of kept going in, and then next thing you know, they're being pulled off of each other.
And
You
for
know,
those that
and
might just hear us say Nikki Carlson Lee, don't really know. Nikki was between the
oh, Alex, how'd you freeze that right when you're saying something?
Yeah.
What he's probably gonna say, she had the most diamond rings of anybody until recently, maybe the past 5 years.
Right.
She's known as probably the most dominant female fighter
Mm-hmm.
ever,
Yeah.
and until recently now, I'd say Morgan is the closest to that. You froze up, bud.
I must have cut out. Hopefully you picked up where I was laying it down.
Yeah, I did. I just explained who she was and everything.
All right, thanks, homies. Look
but
at that.
yeah.
See, I could
So,
just lob it
yeah.
up and you just slam it in.
But one of the funniest thing after that, so this happened, I think, in like September of '99, and the next year, our team's like, hey, you know what? Let's put both of them on the same team, and that didn't work out too well, but that was funny. Oh man! So as the battle kept going on, what are some moments? Because again, like, what's funny, you said your first battle was 2000. That was my last one for a while. Like I didn't come back. I came back like periodically, like 2004, just a little bit here and there. I didn't miss one from 90 until 2000. And so battle went through kind of a transformation. We saw a lot of really cool set fights. I mean, let's talk about Brian Ruth and Jerry Fontenez, which was, to me, I'll never forget that because of Jerry Fontenez getting on stage in the middle of the tournament while the tournament's going, getting on and just calling out Brian Ruth, and then, getting up there, having a dance crew, dancing, Brian won, but it didn't matter. He put on a show, right? And then, you had Raymond Daniels getting really known from that in that area there from the first one, I think in '99. He fought
With his set matches with Brian Ruth too.
And then his set match with Brian Ruth, and Brian
Why
Ruth.
They gotta have a set match
Temple.
with Brian Ruth. Well, that's the battle. So never mind.
Yeah, it was a battle, man. They made sure Brian Ruth was up there. So I mean, lots of great things, Alex, share one of the ones you remember as.
So it's funny. So here's something I remember from my first battle. I remember, now I'm not a rookie to competition or high level competition. That just happened to be my first battle. Right. So I remember being there at that time, that was now called that's when it was like the open forms division. And so I had 3 divisions. I had, open forms, musical forms, and then I was fighting. I didn't even have a team. So I remember there was this guy that everybody would kind of hang around. And at this point, tricking had started to become a thing, right? Everybody was tricking, right? So everybody would take over like a ring, and there'd just be the circle and be like, oh, what is this? Is this a runoff? No, it's just guys in the middle just tricking. We're like, oh, well,
right.
it's kind of cool, right? This is even cooler. And there was this guy who nobody knew. He had on a red top and black pants, and Butch Marks is just the hype man, right? He's like, man, do that move again. And all of a sudden, everybody comes over. Dude does a full twisting backflip with a flash kick out of it. And at this time, we're like, who in the world does that? It was Chris Walker, right? And so I'm like, who is this guy? Who is this guy? And I was talking to Butch. I'm like, who is that guy? He goes, I have no idea, but he's amazing, right? Turns out, like I said, it was Chris Walker. All right. Now, here, I really honestly felt like I didn't belong, right? I felt like I didn't belong. It felt like, because it was what we've all been talking about. Like, it's like this Paul Bunyan-like figure, like it's the battle, right? The battle, right? And I honestly, truly felt like I shouldn't, I don't deserve to be in this level, right? I might win a match or 2. I might do something. Maybe I place, but I don't deserve to be here. And then I'm fighting, and this guy, he was kind of a layup. Like, I could kind of do whatever I wanted to. So I'm like, why not make it a highlight? And then I hear someone was telling me, like, hey man, Preston Clemens says he will whoop your ass. And I'm like, what? He's like a light heavyweight. I'm a lightweight, right? He's like, yeah, man. Preston Clemens said if he was fighting you, he'd whoop your ass. And I'm like, awesome. This is awesome. Somebody actually like, I'm worth it to have my ass whooped. Like, awesome. All right, cool. I feel like awesome. I belong because my ass deserves to be whooped, right? So I'm like, okay, I can get into this now. And any event I did before that, it was just, I felt like I was just kind of like, I would maybe win a division, but nobody knew who I was. I would kind of place a little bit. I wasn't notable. But then that moment, I'm like, all right, let's do this. Now, here's something else about that tournament that it's also on video, right? There was one move. There's one move that happened that nobody should even attempt again. Nobody should ever attempt.
Right.
So Kim Do is a phenomenal all-around martial artist.
Yes.
Mostly known for his forms divisions because he's a West Coast demo team guy, right? Like he and David Douglas hand in hand, just like, man, they were just cooler than the other side of the pillow, right? Just super cool. Love that guy's innovation. Awesome. Always come up with something just interesting. Like, who thinks of this stuff? Comes up with tricks called the rodeo. Like, who can we even name something like that, right? So dude's fighting. He's a good fighter, right?
Yeah.
He's a very good fighter. But he would also, I felt like fighting is easier because there's so much downtime. I can joke around. I can have fun. So he's fighting this cheeseburger, right?
Yeah.
And if everybody who doesn't know what a cheeseburger is, a cheeseburger, when you're fighting, is somebody who doesn't know that they're not that good, right? Like when I was mentioning, I felt like I don't really belong, right? These guys are better than me. A cheeseburger doesn't even know that. A cheeseburger just feels like, hey, it's just like another local tournament. I'll just pick my foot up and slide and kick, and that's just what we do, right? So that's what this guy was, right?
Alex.
He's wearing a camo uniform, if that makes it any better, right? So Kim Do is just kind of letting the guy just kind of like push him around. And we're all like, what in the world are you doing, right? And so it's in the lightweight division. And in the division, there wasn't that many guys, right? Notable. There was like me, Raymond, lightweight, Raymond, right?
Right.
I think like Jimmy Hayes and like somebody else, and then Kim Do, right? So, and then
Alex, why you do this? Why you do this to us? You say this long story and then your internet cuts out. Come on, man. I know what happens, but I kind of like the way Alex is setting this thing up. I mean, geez, good story. Geez, but and then whatever he's about to do, which we're not going to let you know, okay? He does it 2 years later as well. But yeah, so man, I feel bad like saying this, but it's like okay. So, anyways, Kim Do hit this guy with a Webster. All right. Alex.
Okay, I'm sorry. Did you already tell him?
Well, yeah, but go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Just say what happened. Make the story shorter so your internet don't cut out.
Yeah, man, I don't know what to tell you. So basically, Kim Do times it, does a front flip kick, axe kicks the dude right in the freaking face.
Yes.
Right? Or it would have been worse if the guy would have just took it in the face, right? But the guy decides to turn because he sees it coming and it's like it knocks him out.
It's bad.
Everybody bum rushes the ring. Cannot believe it. Like Ken Eubanks is the center and doesn't even try to police anything. He's just like, I've never seen anything like this. I'm just going to stand here and let everybody do whatever they're going to do because this is amazing, right? And how do you run a tournament after that?
Right. I mean, the thing is, what's crazy is that he did that twice. He did that in 2000 and he did in 2002 in the almost literally the same ring. And I think Ken Eubanks was the center in both, same tournament, just 2 different years. And, because the first time he did this guy that had this camo uniform on. And then the second time it was a guy in like a red and white or whatever. Yeah. I think Sport Martial Arts just put a video up of it. It's a while. If you haven't seen it, look it up. It's one of the best ones. One year he did it and he like landed on his butt. But one year he did it and he landed on his feet. And it was just nuts. So Yeah,
The
that's
first time he
definitely a
attempted
memory.
it was like the month before that.
Yeah, Alex, you're killing me. But so, Carmichael, as years later on, you came and were a part of, in the 2010s era of the battle. Share about that, just being a part of it and being part of the promotion.
No, absolutely. I mean, it was good. It was great. It was a 20-year anniversary. I was able to get to John Valera, and obviously he's known for the double 720 as well as jackknife, right? So for us, we came in, I believe it's 2014, which was our
Yeah.
20-year anniversary, I believe, and was able to run a 720 challenge, which was great because we were able to see talent, new talent.
Mhm.
And I recall even at that time, it was, young blood, Alan Davies at the
Right.
time, right? This is before he was even picked up, right? So we knew we could find talent, and that's where we knew battle always had talent, because that was the epicenter for 3-4 major regions, traveling into Atlanta. So to be able to to do the 720 challenge, to pay homage to 1994, as well as with my my peer, my rival, one of my best friends, John Valera, was also a very amazing time for me as well, and to give something back to the sport with regards to lineage and legacy, and define another time of history. And then obviously the next promotion was with with Ernie Jr. at the time,
Yeah.
when he was dealing with his kidney failures, and to have an opportunity for him to come out and kind of reset the format to what you all see right now, which is the Friday night fights and the battle zone on Saturday, right? So
That was
that
fun.
was nice, to be able to bring not just the fights at like you guys said, it was set fights, but to be able to set something on a Friday night, as well as Saturday night challenges. And we did a Junri challenge, right? So that was also to pay homage to Grandmaster Junri for his efforts and his himself obviously pioneering sport karate and what he's contributed. So at that time as well, we were able to do a forms challenge, which I remember, which was what if Master Young remembers, that's what forms guys used to do in between the point fighting matches.
That's right.
Which Charlie Lee, Keith Harabayashi,
True.
and John Fournette would go in between those matches and
True.
see the best of the best. And I felt like we were able to do that again.
Mhm.
And obviously this generation may have not known, but that's how forms became what they are now, because there was only really Bruce Lee and Taimak at the time, and little Ernie Jr., right? So it's wanted to make something very reminiscent for what the battle was known for.
Yeah, and I was blessed to be able to be a part of that, and that was so much fun. For me to be a part of it, and the way it was set up, really putting out the top like 40 forms of weapons competitors in all of ATA, NBL, NASCA, WACO, all that, and then let people vote who do you want to see be in there, and we had what, 8? Yeah, I think it was 8. So it was a great time, lots of fun. I know I had an amazing experience and a memorable one, being able to do my form up there in the battle. And so lots of fun there, just lots of cool things going on with that. So I always love that. And I feel like every year the battle tries to do something different. If it's, again, the Friday night fights is still something they do. They do a night show on Friday and one on Saturday. They're still continuing that today. They're doing, more of an all-around forms of weapons winner for men and women. So extra, see who the best of the best is. So all the grand champions go against each other. There's so many great things that they do. They do the same thing with the fighting. They have Battle Mania right now, where you can do 4 different types of fighting divisions. I mean, it's got something for everybody. Tony, what is one of the things you tell your students as far as when it's time to go to the battle?
Basically, I just get them the options. We go to a lot of competitions. probably at least 3 times a month. So we, compete pretty regular. But if my students feel comfortable, with going to the battle, I explain to them that the best going to be there. They're going to have to compete a lot, and if they just want to try, just want to try and just do their best. That's all I expect from my students. I don't care if they win first place or second place. But the battle or any other tournament is about the experience. Okay, what you learn about meeting people and about fellowshipping. So I just, I suggest they go, just do their best and see what happens. If they win, that's great. If they don't win, then we're going to come back and work harder. But the battle is a good tournament to go to see where you are as far as your belt level or as far as a competitor.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so as we wrap up, get finished up, what's one thing each of you guys maybe we hadn't shared yet, or a story or a moment, or maybe even something you're looking forward to? It could be in your own career. It could be something that you witnessed as a fan. Let's hear it. Carmichael, you go first.
For me in the battle, it's the June Rhee and Charlie Lee lineage. Knowing that they supported the tournament, knowing that Charlie won, right? That was pretty much some of his major tournament grand championships. So that's where it's pretty nostalgic for me, being able to fortunately win the battle, right? 5 times, right? One of them was for weapons, and the remaining ones in my career, for forms. And it always gave me a platform to be able to showcase, myself as an artist and as a competitor. With that, obviously WMAC Masters and what that's been able to provide for me. And my plug is going to be Camp Bruce Lee and the Bruce Lee Foundation, right? Because that's what I'm working on right now. And, if it wasn't for the battle, if it wasn't for Pat Johnson and the production team for WMAC Masters and meeting Shannon Lee in 1994, I wouldn't be sitting here right now with an amazing partnership with Shannon and her company and her enterprise, and working with the Bruce Lee Foundation to be able to continue to open up new opportunities for our industry. So I'll leave it with that.
Amazing. All right, Mr. Young, what do you think? What are some things you want to share?
The thing that I remember most is fighting Steve Nasty Anderson. To me, who was the greatest fighter of all times. Fought him in the battle a couple of times, and I think both on ESPN. But just going through the process as a super lightweight, you don't see many super lightweights make the finals. Right. Just going through the process of winning first place and then going against the other weight classes just to get to Mr. Anderson, okay, who was at the time, the best in the world. And just to go against him was, completely amazing with his leg reach, his arm reach. He's very smart. Steve knew the rules, backwards, inside out. If something didn't go his way, he knew how to manipulate, the rules and to go against his way. But just going against Steve Nasty Anderson, I remember one time fighting him, he picked me up and he threw me in the corner and he dived towards me. Of course I moved out of the way, quickly. That was, I remember that, it's like it was yesterday. But my main thing is just fighting Steve Nasty Anderson, get a chance to fight him, fighting the best guy in the world at the time, and fighting him twice in the finals, very finals.
That's amazing. Man, hey, this is a great time just to share, and I know everyone's excited. I will see you there, Ms. Young, and the other guys won't be there this year. But this is going to be a great event because I feel like we're getting there where we used to be. You know what I mean? This tournament the hotel was sold out 4 months ago. 4 months ago, so
that's the way it used to be.
So it's wild. So it's going to be great. There's going to be competition from everywhere. And we're getting started, I think, at like 11 a.m. on Friday or 12 p.m. on Friday. So it's going to be a long weekend, but a fun weekend. So
definitely. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And myself and Jackson and Chris Walker and Alex Reyes will be doing the pre-show finals. So we're going to be going live. So check in. We're going to tell everyone what's been going on the weekend. get everyone prepared for what they need to look forward to for the finals, and just hopefully be able to showcase some new guys and some stars, create some stars, for our sport. So I'm excited about it.
Here's a great idea, just for more hype, if you can get more hype. You know what? In the comments, let's not just talk about what our favorite moments were. Let's leave videos. If you have videos of like, hey, I remember this form, I remember this fight, leave it in the video.
Yeah, put them in there. Yeah, we'll all do that.
Tell us in the comments what it was. Your favorite battle moment. I know I'm going to leave some.
Let's keep the comments going even after our show's done. So
and Jeff, Alex, also with the battle too. I mean, it not just have great competition, but a lot of the old fighters, they come to the battle. So if you heard about any old fighters, you can come to the battle also to shake hands, meet them, and talk to these guys, former competitors and fighting competitors that were the best in the world. They come to the battle just to see each other. If not any other time, they're the fellowship and the catch up. So that was a great place, not to just to compete, but see all the old timers too.
Yes, and get around and ask, hey, who's that, and go meet them, because, I mean, what other sport do you get to do that at? You know what I mean? Is really see
NFL players do it at the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
that's what this is.
Yeah, so it's amazing, man. This is going to be a great weekend. I'm excited. Thank you guys for sharing.
Before my internet cuts out again, because it probably will. Listen, Carmichael, Mr. Young, tell me this, because I remember seeing this, not just past martial artists that were there, but actual celebrities that were at the battle. We haven't really talked about that. There were actual, not just local, but national celebrities at the battle. Just watching it. Who are some of those guys?
We have, of course, Evander Holyfield.
Yep.
Of course, Chuck Norris been there a lot.
Right.
David Justice. I remember David Justice.
Exactly. David Justice.
That's right. You believe that.
A lot of the stars that are now announced, Atlanta is the place to be for the movie industry. There's a lot of people that come to the battle that, that you have no idea that's there. They just heard about it and they just want to check it out and, see what it's about. But a lot of movie stars and professional fighters, UFC, boxing, martial arts, great people there.
Jeff, there were a few wrestlers too, weren't there?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Even the famous Ernest the Cat Miller.
Of course.
When he was wrestling, it was like a bigger deal,
Yeah. But before that, there were several other ones, because the Atlanta area was, big for WCW and everything down there. So there are a lot of wrestlers. Tommy, Jason Frank, was there. The Green Ranger, many different ones, so every year it was always something. And again, like Carmichael said, it was a big deal that, like, the first 3 years that I was there, 99, 1, 92, there was a huge line just to get autographs with all the Ninja Turtles, and the real Ninja Turtles, like not in the suit, like the ones that, like Ho Young, Ho Sung, Steven, all those guys. So
I got me some of them.
So it's just an overall a great event. I was sharing with some of the others. Oh, I think we're gonna leave, after this. Like, no, this isn't a regular tournament. You go and you make the most of it, because for me, if my mom didn't take me to the finals of my first tournament, I wouldn't have been able to see John Valera and I wouldn't have been able to see Seneca Luther, and they were the two that inspired me to be the champion that I am today. So. And keep going at this 30 years, Yeah, I don't know about the Mohawk, but, but yeah, and so I think it's very important. Parents, that's something I've shared several times. Take them to the finals, and also let them stay and watch the black belts. All right. Yep. So thank you guys so much.
Tell them on nothing. You don't got to try to push them into nothing. Just put them there and let karate do the rest of the work.
There you go.
That's right.
Man, this has been one fun show. Look at that. So
I like that jacket. I got one of those.
How old is that Metro All-Stars jacket?
I think early 90s.
I got one of those, a couple of those.
Kevin trying to get one, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Oh man. All right. Thank you guys so much.
You're very welcome.
All right. Oh, Alex is frozen. So this has been another episode of Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. Have a blessed week, guys. Thank y'all so much.
All right, guys, come to the battle. Look forward to
Yes.
seeing you.
See y'all in a couple days.